Yes, it is. Hi, sis.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning,
Morning,
family.
YouTube family. Yeah, this morning's lesson 187. And sis, will you do us the honors?
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you.
187. I bless the world because I bless myself. No one can give unless he has. In fact, giving is proof of having. We've made this point before. What seems to make it hard to credit is not this. No one can doubt that you must first possess what you would give. So we need to have it first before we can give it, right?
Right.
So we're good with that.
Yeah.
And the ego's good with that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
We're
the
all in
second
agreement.
phase. Sorry?
We're all in agreement. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's the second phase on which the world and true perception differ. What's the second phase? Having had and given, then the world asserts that you have lost what you possessed, right?
Right.
The truth maintains that giving will increase what you possess. So can we just stop here for a second, sis?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, because I did not really understand this for a long, long time when I first saw this concept. Yeah, it just did my head in majorly, right? Because we're so obsessed with form,
right,
that we believe, like, if I give you a prized possession of mine, you take it. You've taken it now, right?
I've got it. Here's my picture of Jesus. Yes. Yeah.
Well, then through the ego filter, I've lost that picture of Jesus.
And I've gained because of your loss.
You have gained because of my loss. How do you feel about gaining because of my loss? Through the ego.
It's all right. Good for me. You'll get over it.
Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
So your priority, and I mean this through mythical me, the ego, is to gain at the expense of another.
Right.
Me.
I'm serving my private interests because I'm different than you, and I would rather be on the winning side than on the losing side.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What do you think this is doing to you?
Oh, are we talking about real?
Real stuff. Like,
okay. Yes. Yes.
The more you want to take, this privatized getting.
Yes. It's to serve a self that does not exist, that I know does not exist, and it's increasing the guilt in my mind. It's trying to wall myself off from my sister who is one with me. So I'm literally splitting myself with this belief that we're, apart, and that one part can gain, another part can lose, and all of that guilt is in my mind. And that's the guilt that ages, kills, and destroys the body, and it keeps me in my reincarnation wash cycle. It keeps me in the dark.
Wash and dry. Yeah.
Keeps me
in the dark. Yeah.
There's no life there. So I think this is really important, that that reality is that there's one whole. What was it, the last lesson or two, was it when we were talking about the space around the ideas, right?
Yep.
So he's talking about that again, that reality is one whole. I like that one seamless fabric of which we're all, part of, without an end or a beginning. And so this thing about that, we've come down and we've taken what's whole, and we have fragmented it into separate parts, and then each part has become material. So now everything is dense, it's physical, it's under the ego's laws, and now we can have, more or less. And you can have, and then there's the don't haves, right? And this is where conflicting interests and the proof of separation comes into play. So that's what the ego is attempting to do. But actually, he says nothing is real unless it can be shared. That when we share, it actually increases. And he's going to go into that here in a minute.
Okay, I'll keep reading then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last sentence in paragraph 1 was, the truth maintains that giving will increase what you possess. Yeah. Second paragraph, how is this possible? For it is sure that if you give a finite thing away, your body's eyes, the ego's senses, will not perceive it yours. Yet we have learned that things but represent the thoughts that make them. And you do not lack for proof that when you give ideas away, you strengthen them in your own mind. Perhaps the form in which the thought seems to appear is changed in giving, yet it must return to him who gives, nor can the form it takes be less acceptable. It must be more.
Wow.
Right? So
yeah.
Just can we back up a little bit with that, sis, and help me to unpack this? So everything is a thought form. Every solid object, whether it be our family home, our vehicle, our car, whatever, our salary, right? Everything's a thought form.
That's right.
So if it's a thought form, as a thought form, it cannot be privatized. When we try and privatize it, then we're refusing to share it, energetically speaking, right?
Yes.
And so we are sabotaging ourselves. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Symbols. All the things are symbols of thoughts. So the thought can only be increased when it's shared. So what is the point in the extending? Like when we're feeling love, you might be feeling the love, but how much more magnified is it when you extend that love with somebody else, right? You bring them into it, or the joy or the peace that you're experiencing, right? That's where something is magnified, and that's how you know that it is true. Yet we're giving to get, that means my focus is on the object. I'm valuing this as an object and I'm giving it to you. And if I believe that I'm losing by giving it to you, I'm actually giving to attack and to separate. So nothing real, has been given. But ideas, when shared, it's not a gift, it's a sharing of it. It can only increase. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I am extending? Why am I extending?
Can you show us the gap diagram? I've just seen something here. Yeah, thank you. Just the gap. I just want to see the gap only. Yeah, thank you. Two split minds that are in relationship with each other, and they idolize the idols in the gap, right? So whenever there's a conflict in any way, shape, or form, then mind number 1 on the left, mind number 2 on the right. Mind number 1 is doesn't have, what's the word for it, is idolizes an idol in the gap more than he appreciates or loves his brother. Mind number 2 on the right. So mind number 1 will not share, not truly. That, what'll happen there, and this is in all special relationships, is we defend the idol that means nothing in reality more than we will open our hearts to extend the love with mind number 2.
So two split minds and their personas, any giving that goes on within this gap is actually bargaining, isn't it?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
giving to get special love. It's trying to manipulate, control, or influence, right? It's not about joining and sharing ideas or the truth or love or joy or anything that's real. Again, nothing is real unless it can be shared. So
Genuinely shared. That
genuinely
means it can't be threatened.
Mhm. Right.
Right? Because in special relationships, the ego says, yeah, I share everything with my partner or
Mhm.
my children or
Mhm.
my whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's
But
some
if,
scorekeeping.
sorry,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
but if that object
Hmm.
can be threatened, it
Hmm.
cannot be shared.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I almost left you frozen. Yes,
Yeah.
thanks,
Thank
sis.
you. Can I share a quote here? And this one's one of my favorite quotes out of the 2000 or so favorite quotes that I have. This one's from chapter 30, section 3, paragraph 2. When you decide upon the form of what you want here in the dream, you lose the understanding of its purpose. Isn't that powerful?
Yes.
So you see your will within the idol, thus reducing it to a specific form, the ego's will within that idol, reducing it to a specific form, which really supports what we've just discussed, right? Yeah. Thank you.
And so I'm realizing that if we have value of the thing itself, it will feel like loss if the impulse is to extend it or give it to a brother, right? But when we recognize that that's just a symbol and what it represents, I cannot be deprived of it, right? It's an idea in my mind. It's mine. And that, even if the symbol is extended to a brother, I love what he's promising us here. Perhaps the form in which the thought seems to appear is changed in giving. Like, I thought I had it here yesterday, it doesn't seem to be with me now that I've given it to my brother, but the idea is still with me. And so a form that represents that idea, it's like that idea must return to him, to the one who's extended it, nor can the form it takes be less acceptable. In fact, it must be more. So we are never impoverished in our giving. You cannot be made less by your extension. It's impossible. I can really feel the truth of that. Like, love doesn't impoverish, it doesn't take from us. There isn't sacrifice involved ever. It's what all good is within you always, and you will always have an infinite number of symbols to represent that idea. Yeah.
That's in genuine giving,
Yeah. The
not
fish in the
ego,
loaves. The
right?
fishes in
Giving
the
together.
loaves. Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Thank you for explaining that, sis.
yeah. I think that's so lovely.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, paragraph 3. Ideas must first belong to you before you give them. If you are to save the world, you first accept salvation for yourself.
Mm.
That means we need to receive it before we can give it. But you will not believe that this is done until you see the miracles it brings to everyone you look upon. Herein is the idea of giving clarified and given meaning. Now you can perceive that by your giving is your store increased. Protect all things you value by the act of giving them away, and you are sure that you will never lose them. What you thought you did not have is thereby proven yours. Yet value not its form, for this will change and grow unrecognizable in time. Oh boy, I've really learned that one, that lesson. It's beautiful to see it written here. So he says, yet value not its form, for this will change and grow unrecognizable in time, however much you try to keep it safe. No form endures. It is the thought behind the form of things that lives unchangeable. And I just want to speak to that personally right now. I'm in a stage within this dream whereby I don't need to take any thought
Right.
To have things.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's gone. The thought of needing something has gone.
Mhm.
All my needs are automatically met.
Yes. Yes. When you
Yeah.
start realizing all is mine. Sis, we have a really important sentence that you did not read, and I don't know if it's not in FIP or what, but it
Can you tell me
falls.
where it is?
Yeah, it's the third to the last sentence in paragraph 4. You wrote blah, blah, blah. You read no form endures. What's your next sentence after that?
It is the thought behind the form of things that lives unchangeable.
Holy carp. Okay, so this is what was left out. Okay,
Oh.
no form endures. To value form is but to worship death. Can you believe that?
I'm shocked. You're joking.
No. No form endures. To value form is but to worship death. It is the thought behind the form of things that lives unchangeable. That's what a stunned fish looks like.
That's what a stunned fish looks like. It's not a pretty look. I can't hide my shock.
That's okay. That's really big. Yeah.
Do you can you sorry guys, I just need to that's paragraph 4.
Yes.
And what number is the line?
It's the 6th line.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, we'll
Don't
never
judge.
forget that sentence, will we, family? Right? To value form is but to worship death, because death is the idea that life has become limited and compromised and lessened by sticking it into a matter suit. Yeah, let's get away from all this idea about form or objects or matter and recognize that all that you are seeing, they're false images and distortions in the mind, because they're distortions because there is no matter, but the idea that it represents is there. God is mind and God creates an ideas. So everything, it's not like, well, the world doesn't exist. Hello, Roadrunner. The world doesn't exist, but all the thoughts behind what you're looking at, that's what's real. And thoughts and ideas can be shared. So we don't covet and grab onto form, right? Because the end of all form is decay and nothing lasts forever in this dream, right? Yeah. It is the thought behind the form of things that lives unchangeable eternally as God created it.
Beautiful.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I have to add that sentence to the FIP version.
We don't.
Yeah. Oh dear. Just as a reminder, if any of our beautiful family here want to read up on it, it's well worth it. And it's in chapter 6, section 5, and it's called The Lessons of the Holy Spirit. And these are the 3 steps to the reversal of the ego thought system. And the first one, which is what we're talking about here, is to give all to all. Okay, that's the first one. That's a necessary step to learn to reverse the ego thought system. It's going to thread its way right through all of the undoing of the mythical me. And the second one is to have peace, teach peace to learn it, which is offer forgiveness, right? And the third one is be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. But we're talking in this lesson, we're talking about the first one, which is to give all to all. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll keep reading the lesson. We're on paragraph 5. Give gladly. Wow. Ego does not like that line at all. Give gladly.
Yeah.
Right? Because what it hears is if I have to give gladly, that means I'm going to lose bitterly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, give gladly. You can only gain thereby. The thought remains and grows in strength as it is reinforced by giving. Thoughts extend as they are shared, for they cannot be lost. Can I stop here? I did say before that I'm at that stage right now. I need to say this because I didn't finish it. Is I'm at that point where all my needs will be met, regardless of those times, and there are a few that come in where the ego seems to sideswipe me and says, "Oh, look, your needs are not met.
Right.
You've got this bill, you've got that, right? Or whatever." The thing is, the faith I have in the truth is there.
Right.
I look past the appearance of scarcity, and because I'm looking past the appearance of scarcity and my focus is on God's limitless supply, that supply comes. It may not come in the timing that the ego believes it should, but it comes. But what I wanted to say and didn't finish before was that side by side with this belief is that I am fulfilling my function, as completely as I can on a moment-to-moment basis, 24/7. And in that function, there's a giving, a non-stop giving that's occurring, but it's a giving gladly.
Yes.
All right? It's a giving gladly. And I couldn't even imagine how I used to operate in my younger years, which was to live from a space of wanting to get instead of giving. Yeah. Just want to say that. I think we'll all experience that, right, sis? I think you're there too, yeah?
Oh, sure. Yeah, all the shopping and trying to fill a hole and thinking that, life is about getting has fallen away. And there's a true reward in the extension because we get the fruit of this giving, which are the gifts of God, which are changeless and eternal, as opposed to little trinkets or forms of things that seem to just, you have a garage sale in 6 months and you get rid of the thing that you thought was going to bring you so much joy. It just collected dust and now you've sold it off for $1. But that's really beautiful that you're leaning into God's promises. It says, I've given you a function. I've given you your life. When you are in function, I already know what you need. I've already given you everything that you could possibly want or need. I designed you. I know what brings you joy. It's already yours. All I ask is that you look unto me and know that I am your life and be in your function. That's how you get into, how's it, one of our viewers wrote it, the river of presence. I loved that analogy. Being in the flow, another way, the river of presence, just being here now, living at the impulse of God's hand and knowing that everything you need is provided for you. That's
I think that was Joanna.
Yeah. Hi, Joanna.
Hi. Mwah.
That was beautiful. Yeah, really loved it.
Oh, yeah, that touched my heart this morning when I read that. Okay, shall I keep reading?
Yeah, this is great. Love it.
Okay. Thoughts extend as they are shared, for they cannot be lost. There is no giver and receiver in the sense the world conceives of them. There is a giver who retains, another who will give as well. And both must gain in this exchange, for each will have the thought in form most helpful to him. What he seems to lose is always something he will value less than what will surely be returned to him. Wow.
That is so good. We're talking about how God's love just gives and gives and gives. And Jesus says that love always shows up in a form most practical. And so that if there is an exchange at the level of form between brothers, right?
Yes.
The form will always be most helpful to that brother. And the one that the world would say just lost is something that will be returned to him in even a greater value or more practical. Nobody loses. It's impossible.
When we give, and we give gladly.
That's right.
It's impossible. That's it. That's just so good. I mean, we can afford to take our hands off the wheel.
Totally.
You know, and all of the pie of life, you know, we've got our 20 pieces of this pie of life. Hey, we don't need to control any of it. Thank you. It's in the giving that all of it is returned to us completely, divinely reinterpreted and repurposed by Holy Spirit. Every single slice of our life pie, every relationship, everything, you know. Yeah. Okay, paragraph 6. Never forget you give but to yourself. That's huge.
That's it.
Give but to yourself. Who understands what giving means must laugh at the idea of sacrifice, nor can he fail to recognize the many forms which sacrifice may take. He laughs as well at pain and loss, at sickness and at grief, at poverty, starvation, and at death. Oh, well, the ego says that's bloody blasphemy right there, right? How can you laugh at pain and loss and sickness and grief and poverty, starvation, and death?
That's right. Because if you loved me, you would stand at horror at it with me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. He recognizes sacrifice remains the one idea that stands behind them all, and in his gentle laughter are they healed. Yeah. One thing just to bring this up again is the idea of sacrifice. That is the bedrock of all special relating. Yeah, all special relationships. It's not love, it's sacrifice. In fact, the ego believes, this is how twisted its belief is, that love is sacrifice.
That's it.
And that to sacrifice is to love.
That's right.
Then if we really believe that, we're going to believe in the ego's ultimate sacrifice, that God demands our death.
So all the little forms of sacrifice that we make in the special relationship are really just little forms of the ultimate, which is death. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So, so this is the other thing too that the ego hides from our awareness, is that it's impossible to sacrifice alone. We think we do it in the privacy of our special relationships or whatever, right? But it's impossible to sacrifice alone. What you ask of yourself, you must also ask of every brother or sister, including Jesus. Yeah. So I just found this quote, and it's from chapter 15, section 10, paragraph 2. This is Jesus speaking to us personally. To see me, Jesus, is to see me in everyone, the Christ, and offer everyone the gift you offer me. I am as incapable of receiving sacrifice as God is.
Mm.
And every sacrifice you ask of yourself, you ask of me. Wow. Learn now that sacrifice of any kind is nothing but a limitation imposed on giving. Right there. Yeah. And by this limitation, you have limited acceptance, receiving of the gift I offer you. So sacrifice, we have to give that up, the idea of sacrifice, or bargaining, right? And the other thing too here I need to say is, in relationship, if I sacrifice something for you, sis,
Please don't.
no, I wouldn't
Okay.
ever. All right. We have a holy relationship, and you wouldn't do it for me either. All right. If I sacrifice something for you, I cannot give gladly.
Right.
Okay.
You're giving attack.
I'm giving attack. Yeah. Okay. And so I'm going to resent the hell out of you for whatever it is that I believe I'm sacrificing.
Mm. So
And that's the way the ego works.
I'm really just feeling into this. If I am the Christ and yet I portray any of these pain, loss, sickness, grief, poverty, starvation, or signs of death or ultimate death, right? These are my excuses as to why I am less than, and I certainly don't have it to give.
Mm-hmm.
And yet those that seem to be experiencing grief, poverty, or loss, they're the martyrs that they will, okay, even in my pain, even in my extremity, I will give, right? But that gift is filled with resentment, poison. It's an attack. It's not a gift at all. It's like I'm giving from my real lack, and so you should feel bad that you're receiving from me who doesn't have it to give. I mean, it's so gross now. It's so heavy and so gross and so obviously not a real gift. So anytime that we're trying to present ourselves as we are not, that's just our block to shunt us off from first receiving and to make the extension so that we ourselves would keep what we gave. That's all it is. It's just eclipsing what we were created to do.
Yeah, beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah. Paragraph 7. We will finish this lesson by midnight tonight, guys.
I think it's good. I love this sentence. He says this in so many different ways, and if we would get this is so powerful.
Okay. So this is paragraph 7. Illusion recognized must disappear. Isn't that powerful? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. Or what is understood as nothing must disappear.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the last things he gave to Helen in the special messages. Helen Schuckman. I think it was there a physical resurrection? Yeah. He said that the last illusion disappeared, right? Which is of course the body. Yes. Because he saw that the body is nothing, right? Then the body and death disappeared.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Illusion recognized must disappear, except not suffering, and you remove the thought of suffering. That's a big statement. Yes. Except not suffering, and you remove the thought of suffering.
So suffering isn't real. Suffering is a thought that we entertain and seem to give life to because we've given it our consent and our belief. Withdraw that belief, withdraw your consent, understand that it's nothing but a suggestion. didn't come from God, doesn't have power, doesn't have a means, doesn't even have a witness, only seems to arise within an ego thought system, which never came about because God is the only mind. You reduce it to its native nothingness, it falls for a lack of witness. Your belief keeps it propped up. Withdraw it. You're not turning your back on something real. It's not wishful thinking. You're just seeing right through it.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And I think maybe before that point, we have to see what are we using it for. Suffering. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So we're always using suffering, regardless of the form, the severity of it, regardless of what it is. We're always using the suffering as a defense against God's love, the truth of what we are, the holy self, right? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep. I'll keep reading.
Yes.
Okay. Your blessing lies on everyone who suffers when you choose to see all suffering as what it is. The thought of sacrifice gives rise to all the forms that suffering appears to take. And sacrifice is an idea so mad that sanity dismisses it at once. Okay, so what I'm also seeing here is that any form of sacrifice is a defense against God.
Yes, that's it.
Which means that it's defense against love, which means it's a defense against our holy self, the memory of union.
It's a defense against life. And logic that one out, that's death.
Whoa. Oh, now we're getting to the meat of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Paragraph 8, never believe that you can sacrifice. There is no place for sacrifice in what has any value. Wow. There is no place for sacrifice in what has any value. So if we value our relationships with others and our children and family, etc., then there is no place for sacrifice in what has any value. If the thought of sacrifice occurs, its very presence proves that error has arisen and correction must be made. So what he's saying here is as soon as we go into martyr mode or bargaining mode or whatever, control mode, and we believe that we need to sacrifice, we need to stop and accept the atonement in that moment, yeah?
Right.
Or as soon as possible. Your blessing will correct it. Given first to you, it now is yours to give as well, once we've accepted atonement. No form of sacrifice and suffering can long endure before the face of one who has forgiven and has blessed himself. Ah, thank God. So, speaking at a practical level here, how do we, I need to ask this question. Sis, are you good with just talking about this for a minute?
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Okay. At a practical level, the tools that we need in order to devalue sacrifice and learn the truth, would you agree? Course forgiveness of ourself.
Yeah.
And also learning to become authentic, learning authentic communication, authentic relating within our relationships, regardless of the fact that most of the relationships we probably have are special relationships. We need to show up. We need to learn to become authentic. And then as we learn to become more authentic, we open to see the mistake of sacrifice and what it costs us and the relationships that we have, etc.
Right. Yeah. Through the contrast learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the idea of I'm not the Christ would give rise to experiences like pain and loss and suffering. And that represents this choice, a choice to sacrifice. And that leads to suffering, right? Okay, so suffering is a choice for suffering is the result, the natural result of this election to sacrifice to prove that we are not the Christ. Yeah, it's our evidence. It's the evidence that the ego uses to say, I don't have it. I certainly don't have it to extend. I'm defending both against God. No, God, I'm not receiving the impulse from the mind of God. And I cannot extend because clearly I don't have it to give. Right. So my brother's kept safely away and God's at bay. And, you know, I'm here. I am in my selfish interests suffering with all my chosen sacrifice. That's really what the mythical me is all about. And it keeps itself fortified in its isolation and its misery. Yeah. And so our brother is this means to where we finally, you know, allow something real, not where there is no sacrifice. We allow ideas to be shared and felt and experienced. We're moving beyond selfish interest to join with the brother beyond mythical me. And we're having this experience that now shows us, oh, I can either have the sacrifice that I've been choosing, or I can have the gifts of God. I can have communion and oneness and peace. So it's our brother literally becomes our savior. And the way that you allow that joining to occur is, like Sis said, showing up authentically. Stop defending ourselves against our brothers. Be open. Want to join with what it is that you're seeing. No longer defending and keeping them at bay. No longer wanting to frighten your brother with your chosen forms of sacrifice or sickness or pain. You want to become inviting. You want to let love flow. You want to unplug both from God to let God flow through to extend to your brother.
Beautiful. Yeah. Because sickness and all those other defenses are isolation.
That's it.
The ways we keep ourselves defended right. from our brothers and sisters, yeah, and God.
Cutting ourselves off. That's right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me and
I'm getting
fleshing that out a bit more, Sis.
Yeah, thanks, Sis. Needed to hear that for myself too. Just to get it. What the heck we're doing.
So, one thing here too is all self-betrayal is sacrifice, and sacrifice is self-betrayal. Yeah, that is an important point to make here. The lilies. Sorry?
So every time we abandon ourselves and to take on pain and sickness, when we finally recognize what we are, there's a lot of emotion that comes up, a lot of sadness that rises, a lot of tears that flow, right? Because when we recognize the extent of the abandonment, once you experience your holy self, I had that moment this morning. Why on earth did we ever think that this was a good idea? How little did I play? How dimmed and dummied down the light that we are to have this experience. There's nothing wrong when that time comes, but you really see, I am the light of the world, and I have been toying with sacrifice. Here's the storehouse of God's treasures. No, I want this. And you just, let the emotions flow and then laugh in that order.
Because when you're right, Sis, when you really see how much you've turned your light down in order to fit in and be accepted by other egos, it's devastating. Emotionally devastating. Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. But then we pass through that eye of the needle.
Yes. Yeah, you need to feel it to let it go. And then you can sort of laugh at the absurdity and go, well, I was never that. But you can't say I'm never that until you've at least experienced the remorse of, that's it. Wow, I threw diamonds away for trash, you know? It's like, what's I doing? It's okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Paragraph 9. The lilies that your brother offers you are laid upon your altar, with the ones you offer him beside them. Who could fear to look upon such lovely holiness, innocence? The great illusion of the fear of God diminishes to nothingness before the purity that you will look on here. Be not afraid to look. The blessedness you will behold will take away all thought of form, and leave instead the perfect gift forever there, forever to increase, forever yours, forever given away. Gosh, so beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
Now are we one in thought, for fear has gone. And here, before the altar to one God, one Father, one Creator, and one thought, we stand together as one Son of God. Not separate from Him who is our source, not distant from one brother who's part of our one self, whose innocence has joined us all as one. We stand in blessedness and give as we receive. The name of God is on our lips. And as we look within, we see the purity of heaven shine in our reflection of our Father's love. Now are we blessed, and now we bless the world. What we have looked upon, we would extend, for we would see it everywhere. We would behold it shining with the grace of God in everyone. We would not have it be withheld from anything we look upon. And to ensure His holy sight is ours, we offer it to everything we see. For where we see it, it will be returned to us in form of lilies we can lay upon our altar, making it a home for innocence itself, who dwells in us and offers us His holiness as ours. Wow. I bless the world because I bless myself.
Thank you. Part of that positive separation, losing interest in the world, losing interest in goals and things and any symbols of form, which are really symbols of fear, letting it all go, turning within and finding just the greatest treasure has always resided in you. And discovering in your delight that it doesn't shrivel up, it can't decay, it doesn't go anywhere, it's actually in you, it's the grace of God that lives in you as you, that it's exhaustless, going there and just scooping it out without limitation, and then blessing every, as you turn around and you receive that, that's the Christ vision, that's the receiving, and it's the transformation to where love is just overflowing, so that as you look, your love is beholding itself in what it sees. It's seeing the thought behind the form in this appreciation, and you're just in a sense state of joy, a joy that the world doesn't know. What a great exchange. What a deal. What a bargain.
What a relief.
Yeah.
What liberation.
We're laying those white lilies down at your feet. Yes, thank you.
We are.
Thanks, family. Hope this was helpful. We were kind of all over the place on this lesson, but it was so rich, so much here. Even though it wasn't one of the longer ones, it was jam-packed. Thanks, sis. Thanks for reading it so beautifully.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, beautiful family. Thank you.
We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.